Good morning, Year 8. Today we're going to look at some ratio revision. Now, ratio is something that you've done before, so hopefully what we're about to do today are things that you have covered in the past and should have a pretty decent idea about. The idea is that we're going to look at 4 different little things, and then there'll be a worksheet at the end for you to have a go at, and following the worksheet there'll be an answer sheet for you to mark them. Okay, so the first thing we're looking at is simplifying ratios. Now, if you are any good at simplifying fractions, then you should be pretty decent at simplifying ratios. You'll get a question that starts with the word simplify, so simplify, which hopefully I'll spell correctly in a moment, simplify, and then you'll get 2 or 3 numbers, such as simplify 15, double dot or colon, simplify 15, colon 10. And what that means is ratio, simplify the ratio 15 to 10. And what we've got to do is we've got to find a common factor of 15 and 10, a number that goes into 15 and into 10. Okay, so they're both in the 5 times table. Both of those numbers will divide by 5. They are both multiples of 5. How many 5s go into 15? 2? No, 3. So we divide that by 5 and we get 3. How many 5s go into 10? 2. We divide 10 by 5 and we get 2. And that is that ratio simplified. Simplifying 15 to 10, we end up with 3 to 2. Let's do another one. Simplify 21 to 14. Now this time we look through our multiplication tables, we look through the facts that we know. They're not in the 2s, they're not in the 3s, they are both in the 7 times table. How many 7s go into 21? 7, 14, 21. 3 times 7. How many 7s go into 14? 2 times 7. Again, we get the answer 3 to 2, and that is as far as we can go, simplifying it. Sometimes our questions might involve trickier numbers like 56 to, let's say, 88. And it might not be immediately obvious what numbers go into 56 and into 88. However, we can see that this number ends in a 6 and this number ends with an 8, meaning they are both even numbers and therefore multiples of 2, so they will both divide by 2. How many 2s go into 56? 28. And how many 2s go into 88? 44. So we've simplified our ratio, but if we look at these two numbers, ends in an 8, ends in a 4, we have 2 numbers again that are even numbers, and so these are again multiples of 2, and we can divide one stage further and we can get 14 and 22. And if we look yet again, both of these numbers are even numbers again, and therefore we'll divide by 2 again, and we'll end up with 7 double dot 11. Simplified all the way, we get down to 7 to 11. Now, what number could we have divided by initially to get down to 7 to 11? Well, if we divide 56 by 8, 56 divided by 8 is 7, 88 divided by 8 is 11. Some of you may have been able to see that straight away, but if you can't, you can simplify in several stages. Just like when you're simplifying fractions, if you can't initially see the largest factor that goes into both of the numbers, then you can start dividing by a smaller factor and gradually work your way down until you get to the simplest case. In each case, when you get to the answer, underline your answer just to show the examiner or the marker that you've arrived at the final answer. And that is how we simplify ratios. Okay. Now sometimes you'll be asked to write the answer in the ratio 1 to n. Now what this means is, and I'm not going to keep writing right in the ratio 1 to n, sometimes this will mean that you are given something like 16 to 32, and what you've got to do, you've got to change the first number to a 1. Now, to change that first number to a 1, you've got to go from 16 to 1, you've got to divide this side by 16. Alright, you've got to divide that side by 16. What you do to the left, you've got to do to the right. So you've got to divide 32 by 16. How many 16s go into 32? 16, 32, 2 16s go into 32. So our answer is 1 to 2. The first number has to be 1. And again, since that is our answer, we can underline our answer. Let's look at another one. Let's try 20 to 100. That isn't our answer, so I'm not going to underline that. Now, we want to change the first number to 1. What do I have to divide 20 by to get down to 1? This is the easy part of the question. I always have to divide by the first number in order to get to 1. 20 divided by 20 is 1. What is 100 divided by 20? How many 20s in 100? 20, 40, 60, 80, 100? 5. 1 to 5. There's my answer. Underline it. Okay, let's have a look for a slightly trickier one. So let me get rid of that there. I like things to look neat. Okay, a slightly trickier one. Let's try 8 to 2. 8 to 2. Right, so this time the aim again is to end up with 1 at this side, but now we are dividing 8 by 8 to get 1. So we've got to divide the left hand side by 8. That means we've got to divide the right hand side by 8. Now 2 divided by 8, a lot of people make the mistake of doing 8 divided by 2, which is 4. That is not the answer. We've actually got to do, let's write it over here, 2 divided by 8. 2 divided by 8. Which gives us a decimal. 2 divided by 8 gives us 0.25. 2 divided by 8, 0.25, which we can get on a calculator. 0.25 or 1/4, 0.25. So we've got to watch out for those in particular. They're the ones that we have to be most careful with. 0.25. Okay. The main thing to remember is whatever we divide the first number by, we have to divide the second number by the same. Right, moving on. Sharing in a ratio. These sorts of questions are usually fairly straightforward. You'll get a question like, Peter and Susie share £80 in the ratio 7 to 9. How much does each person get? Okay. So basically what this means is they've got an amount of money and they're going to split it. Peter's going to get 7 shares of the money and Susie's going to get 9 shares. So 7 shares and 9 shares. And that means that in total there are 16 shares. 7 add 9, 16. So how much will one of those shares be? Remember, Peter's getting 7 of them, Susie's getting 9 of them, so we need to know how much one of those shares actually is. And to find out one of those shares, if we take the £80 and divide that by 16, we get the answer £5. That is the value of one share. So 1 share is £5. Now Peter gets 7 shares, which equals 7 times £5, which equals £35. Susie gets 9 shares, which equals 9 times £5, which equals £45. And since this is our answer, this is what needs to be underlined. We'll put that out of the way up there for a moment and have a look at a second example. Let's have a look at a second example. John and Leslie have 14 sweets between them. They share them in the ratio 2 to 5. How many more sweets does Leslie have than John? Okay, so it's a very similar question to begin with. What we've got is we've got John and Leslie having 14 sweets, sharing them in the ratio 2 to 5. So we need to know how many shares that is in total. 2 shares, 5 shares, 7 shares. 2 add 5 means that we've got 7 shares. 1 share then, we've got 14 sweets. 14 divided by 7 equals 2. So 1 share is 2 sweets. 1 share is 2 sweets. So John gets 2 shares. 2 shares there. 2 times 2 sweets, which equals 4. Leslie gets 5 times 2 sweets, which equals 10. That would have answered this first question. However, this time we're being asked how many more sweets does Leslie have than John. So our final line this time, Leslie has 10 take away 4, 6 more sweets than John. Now this type of question would always be worth 1 more mark than this question above, because you not only have to do the workings, but you then have to make a final conclusion based on your workings. Sharing in a ratio. Moving on to the final type of question we're going to look at today, interpreting ratio questions. Very similar to the sharing ones, but with just one added extra idea. So, for an example, Bill and Ben share some marbles in the ratio 8 to 15. Bill gets 24 marbles. How many does Ben get? Okay, so it's a sharing question, but this time we're told part of the answer. We're told how many Bill gets. We've actually got to work out how many Ben gets. So the ratio Bill to Ben is 8 to 15. So in other words, if Bill got 8 marbles, Ben would get 15 marbles. However, Bill has actually got 24 marbles. So if we look here, how many 8s make 24? 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 8. So Bill has got 3 lots of 8. Ben must get 3 lots of 15. 3 times 15 is 45. So our answer then gets 45 marbles. Just look at the workings for that one again. How many 8s make 24? See if I can write something in here. 8 times 3 is 24, so over this side we have to do the same. 15 times 3 is 45. Okay, so that's how we work our answer out to this one. We'll have one more question, one more example. Lisa and Jane share some money in the ratio 5 to 11. Jane gets £36 more than Lisa. How much does Lisa get? Okay, now this is an interesting question because this time we are not told how much Jane gets. We're not told how much Lisa gets. We are not told how much they are sharing to begin with. All that we are told is that Jane gets £36 more than Lisa. £36 more. Now look at the question and we'll see that £36 more must equal how many shares? Well, Jane gets 11 shares, Lisa gets 5 shares. What's the difference in the number of shares? 11 take away 5 is 6 shares. So that £36 more is 6 shares. So 1 share must equal £6. So in other words, each one of these shares is £6. Lisa is getting 5 of those shares. Lisa gets 5 shares of £6. So she gets 5 times £6, which equals £30. Okay, and that is our answer. Just look at that again. We are not told how much money they are sharing. We are not told how much Lisa gets. We are not told how much Jane gets. The only information we are told is how much Jane gets more than Lisa. So we have to work out how many shares more Jane gets. £36 more is 6 shares. So 1 share must be £6, and from that we can work out how much Lisa gets. She gets 5 shares, 5 shares. And we can also work out how much Jane would have got. She would have got 11 shares, 11 sixes. If we needed to work that out, we could have got that as well. So very quickly, what we've covered today, we've covered simplifying ratios. A bit like fractions, look for common factors, divide by the common factors until you get to a final answer that we cannot simplify any further. We've looked at writing in the ratio 1 to n. Divide each number, divide the first number until we get 1. So we divide by 16, divide by 20, divide by 8. What you divide the first number by, you have to divide the second number by. Watch out for when you get a decimal, because they're the slightly trickier ones. We've looked at sharing an amount into a ratio. We've looked at how we do that. We add the shares together to see how many shares there are. We divide the amount by that number to work out the value of 1 share, and then multiply each amount by that amount to get the value of each number of shares. And finally, we've looked at interpreting some more difficult ratio questions with 2 examples there, where we are not told the amount that we're sharing, That's what we've got to work out from other information that we're given in the question. Right, so now here is a worksheet. 5 questions on simplifying, 5 on writing in the ratio 1 to n, 5 in sharing £60 in the ratios that given, and 3 questions on interpreting ratio questions. Now at this point, what I want you to do, I want you to pause the video and do the worksheet. So far the video was run for about 20 minutes. I want you to spend 20 minutes to half an hour doing this worksheet, as long as it takes. Remember to show your workings, and then following that there will be an answer sheet. But pause at this point and do not resume the video until you have done the worksheet. Thank you. Okay, Year 8, here are the answers. Please mark your own. If you've got any wrong, have a look at them and try and work out where you've gone wrong. Okay, most of them are very straightforward, and you shouldn't have many problems getting them correct if you check them through. Perhaps 1 or 2 tricky ones might be questions 9 and 10 on the ratio 1 to n, maybe question 15, sharing £60 in the ratio 5 to 3, and possibly 1 or 2 of the interpreting ratio questions. Add up your scores out of 18. If you've got a score of 10 or more, then you've done well. 15 or more, you've done brilliant. Less than 10, well, maybe you need to go back and redo this lesson again. Okay, thank you, Year 8. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope to see you in school very, very soon. Take care and stay safe. Mr. Allard signing off for now.